Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kyle Clark.
I'm Kim Christensen. Tonight, people are grieving together after a devastating shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis. Vigils are being held around the city to honor the 2 children who were killed and the 17 others hurt at Annunciation Catholic School this morning. They were attacked while attending Mass during their first week of school. An 8-year-old and 10-year-old were killed. The 17 others who were hurt are expected to survive. And while school leaders are asking for prayers, they also want action.
There's an African proverb that says, when you pray, move your feet. So I beg you, I ask you to please pray, but don't stop with your words. Let's make a difference and support this community, these children, these families, these teachers. Never again can we let this happen.
The FBI identified the shooter tonight as 23-year-old Robin Westman, who died by suicide after the attack. All 3 guns the shooter used were purchased legally. Our sister station, Minneapolis, says Westman attended that school for at least 1 year and visited within the last year. The shooter's mother also used to work at the school, retiring several years ago. While the shooter left a manifesto, investigators are still working to determine a motive. Meantime, the pain felt in Minneapolis is reverberating across the country and through the Catholic community.
The Archdiocese of Denver has 35 elementary schools it's responsible for in the Denver metro area. 9 News reporter Janelle Finch is along now after speaking with the Archdiocese today. Janelle.
Like you said, I spoke with the Archdiocese specifically about safety and security. They say this last year they've been dedicated to strengthening that in its parishes and schools. Faith knows no distance.
That's who we live for, is God.
And tragedy knows no bounds.
Sad and upset. The fact that we have 2 little ones that were killed and many others that were injured during Mass, the most sacred time that we come to give praise and worship, and evil showed up.
Mike Daly is a deacon with the Archdiocese of Denver. He's also the director of safety and security. He says the mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis has him answering questions here.
Are our schools safe? Are we doing enough for school masses? What does it look like and how you do this?
Daly says he spent more than 2 decades in law enforcement before turning in his bulletproof vest for clerics.
It's who I've been made to be.
Now, he's responsible for overseeing security in more than 120 parishes, 30 schools, and multiple apostolates.
I go and work with each of those locations to help them identify their vulnerabilities, their risks and assessments.
He says evil entered a sacred space in Minneapolis.
It was not your typical school shooting. It happened in our church.
Daly says security has to be integrated across the Archdiocese,
so that our parishes and our schools are really not seen as separate, but that they're actually more unified.
He says safety must also know no distance, just like his faith.
Evil will not overcome, and we're going to keep praying. We're going to keep giving thanks and praise to God.
The Archbishop of Denver also called for prayers for the children, teachers, and families affected by the shooting. He also asked for people to keep the injured in thought and pray for their healing. Live in Denver, Janelle Finch, 9 News.
It was another rainy day across the Denver metro area. Cooler weather and storm chances that return tomorrow. Kathy Sabin, whether people like it or not, we're kind of stuck in this little rainy, cloudy cycle.
And Kyle, most people seem to be okay with that in late August, coming off of weeks of record high temperatures, talk of drought, all of the wildfires that we're still dealing with. This cool temperature trend and rain every day for 5 days has actually been a really good thing. And the pattern will be shifting again just in time for your outdoor plans for the holiday weekend. I love all the pictures you all have been sending in on the digital network. Rain showers, heavy downpours, but also some sunbeams and God rays, as we like to call those, coming through those beautiful cumulus clouds today. Temperatures are comfortable tonight in the 60s along the Front Range after highs topped out below average in the 70s again. Thankfully, the wind is much calmer with the exception of elevated terrain. We're seeing some gusts to 10 and 15 miles per hour. Storms are tracking southeast of Burlington. A lot of lightning and rain, but the storms with hail are outside our state's border tonight. A few few showers to the south of Castle Rock, tracking toward Callahan and Lyman, and a few more showers coming into Winter Park, Estes Park, and Berthoud tonight. And I do think those areas could see rain past midnight. So we get a little bit of drying overnight. We'll get some sunshine tomorrow, and then foothill storms are going to form once again to the west of town about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 60s overnight tonight and at the bus stop with a little bit of sunshine tomorrow. Coming up, we're going to check the radar again and check out that extended forecast in detail. Warmer, drier weather coming in for the holiday weekend. I'll have all of that just ahead.
The group attacked in an anti-Semitic firebombing in Boulder says it no longer feels safe gathering publicly in that city. They say their gatherings in support of Israeli hostages held by Hamas continue.
And victimizing herself. Oh, it's against it. No one gives a f if you're Jewish.
Run for their lives. Say during their last two gatherings on the Pearl Street Mall, hecklers have waited for them, even followed them around. The group's leader says she got similarly harassed after a city council meeting this week.
I actually think that the majority of people are not in this city are not aware of the degree to which we're being subjected to this.
The group says it is moving future gatherings to secured locations that are shared only with supporters.
Voters in Adams County will once again have to consider raising property taxes to pay for investments in schools. Within the last hour and a half, the Adams 12 School Board voted to send a nearly $40 million mill levy override to the November ballot. If voters approve it, the average homeowner would see an increase in property taxes of about $34 a month. The superintendent argues it's worth it to increase teacher pay. They say right now their educators are at the bottom for pay among other districts in the area. The district also says they need to hire more psychologists, counselors, and social workers to address the mental health concerns like depression and anxiety that they're seeing in students. And it would go towards stepping up staffing and courses for career and technical education, those classes that kids can get their career started early. The superintendent worries what will happen if this doesn't pass.
We know the state's not going to have a lot of money to help us out for next year. So if we don't help ourselves here in Adams 12, next year will be another difficult year when it comes to cuts.
Voters saw a similar question on the ballots last year. They voted it down. The district then cut $27 million from its budget, including 150 jobs.
Colorado state workers are now under a hiring freeze. Democratic Governor Jared Polis blames the president's big, beautiful bill for putting a squeeze on the state budget.
9 News reporter Ria Jha joins us from the Capitol. And Ria, the people who keep the state government running aren't happy about this.
Yeah, they are happy this isn't coming in the form of layoffs, but they're wondering if this will do more harm than good and if this will actually do much to fix the state's budget problem.
So the hiring freeze.
A statewide hiring freeze went into effect on Wednesday. Democratic Governor Jared Polis says he had to do it because of federal budget pressures.
We're relieved that it isn't worse, but again, it is going to hurt the state workforce and the state as a whole.
By doing this, the governor says he's hoping to protect jobs long term. But state workers like Diane Byrne,
Morale is already a bit low.
Says they're already stretched thin.
We're suffering from chronic understaffing because of a lot of budget shortfalls.
On top of working for the state's Medicaid agency, Diane is also the president of the union that represents 27,000 state workers. She knows the strain employees are under.
So our state vacancy rate runs at around 20% year to year. It can go up or down. When 20% of your workforce isn't there, that 20% of the work still has to be done by someone. Or actually, sometimes it doesn't get done by someone, and that's not good for anyone.
She says the gap means that services Coloradans count on every day could suffer.
Whether that's the services that we provide through the DMV, and if we have staffing shortages at CDOT, our roads are less safe. The people like me who work for the state Medicaid agency that provides insurance to over 1 million Coloradans.
The governor's office says the freeze is expected to save $3 million. That's $3 million of the state's $800 million budget shortfall. Diane calls the freeze a small patch on a much larger problem.
We're hopeful that we can move through this quickly and focus on bigger ticket items that can actually patch the hole in our budget.
There are some jobs that aren't included in the hiring freeze, including jobs needed for public safety and jobs that are not funded by the state budget, like CPW. The hiring freeze is supposed to last until the end of the year. Reporting live at the Capitol, Ria Jha, 9 News.